Chapter 1, Introductions. First encounter. The little bell above the door chimed as a man stepped into the flower shop, bringing a rush of crisp autumn air. Emma looked up from her workbench, her hands still dusted with pollen from the lilies she was arranging. Her eyes widened slightly at the sight of the newcomer. He was tall, with dark hair neatly combed back, and his sharp features gave him an air of confidence. He wore a tailored suit, unusual for the shop's typical customers, who were usually more casually dressed. "Good morning," Emma greeted, offering her warmest smile. "How can I help you today?" The man returned her smile, though his was more reserved, almost guarded. "Good morning. I'm looking for some flowers for my father's grave. He passed away a few years ago, and I like to bring fresh flowers every week." Emma's heart softened. "I'm so sorry for your loss. We have a lovely selection. Did you have something specific in mind?" He glanced around the shop, his gaze lingering on a bouquet of white roses. "Those look perfect." White roses were his favorite. Emma nodded and moved to gather the roses, carefully selecting the freshest blooms. White roses symbolize purity and remembrance. "They're a beautiful choice." As she worked, she glanced at him, noting the way he carried himself with quiet grace. Something was compelling about him, something that drew her in. She tried to push the thought aside, focusing on her task. "Do you come here often?" she asked, trying to make conversation. He nodded. "I go every week. I used to go to another shop but found this one recently. It has a much more welcoming atmosphere." Emma smiled, pleased. "I'm glad you like it. We strive to make it a warm and inviting place." He looked around, taking in the colorful array of flowers. "You've succeeded. It's a beautiful shop." "Thank you," Emma replied, her cheeks flushing slightly. She finished arranging the roses and wrapped them in delicate paper. "Here you go. I hope these bring some comfort." He took the bouquet from her, his fingers brushing against hers. "Thank you." He paused, waiting for her to fill in the blank. "Emma," she said quickly. "My name's Emma." "Thank you, Emma. I'm Alex." He gave her another reserved smile, but there was warmth in his eyes now. "I appreciate your help." "It's my pleasure, Alex. If you ever need anything else, don't hesitate to ask." "I'll remember that," he said, his tone soft. "Have a good day, Emma." "You too, Alex," she replied, watching as he turned and walked out of the shop, the bell chiming softly behind him. Emma stood there momentarily, the lingering scent of roses in the air, feeling an unexpected flutter in her chest. Alex was different from anyone she'd met before, and she couldn't help but wonder if their paths would cross again. Emma's world. The morning light streamed through the large windows of the flower shop, casting a warm glow on the vibrant array of blooms that filled the space. Emma moved gracefully among the flowers, her hands skilled and confident as she arranged bouquets and tended to the plants. This was her sanctuary, where she found peace and joy in the simple beauty of nature. "Morning, Emma," called out Lisa, her colleague and close friend, as she entered the shop, balancing a tray of coffee cups. "I brought us some caffeine to kickstart the day." Emma smiled, grateful. "You're a lifesaver." "Thanks." They chatted amiably as they worked, the familiar routine of the shop bringing a sense of comfort. Emma loved her job, not just because of the flowers but because of the people she interacted with daily. She enjoyed helping customers find the perfect arrangements for their occasions, whether a joyous celebration or a moment of sorrow. Later that morning, a middle-aged woman entered the shop, her face lighting up as she saw Emma behind the counter. "Good morning. Do you have any recommendations for a birthday bouquet?" Emma greeted her warmly. Of course, Mrs. Thompson. How about a mix of sunflowers and daisies? They're bright and cheerful, perfect for a birthday. Mrs. Thompson beamed. That sounds wonderful. You always know exactly what I need. Emma chatted with Mrs. Thompson about her family and the upcoming birthday party as she prepared the bouquet. These moments of connection were what Emma treasured most. Each customer had a story. She felt privileged to be a small part of their lives through the flowers she arranged. By the time the sun reached its peak, the shop was bustling with activity. Emma moved from one task to another with practiced ease. Her passion for her work was evident in every careful touch. She loved the smell of the fresh blooms, the feel of the petals beneath her fingers, and the way a beautifully arranged bouquet could bring a smile to someone's face. As the shop quieted down in the afternoon, Emma found herself thinking about Alex. He had visited the shop several times, choosing the most beautiful flowers for his father's grave. There was a kindness in his eyes, a depth that she found intriguing. And although their conversations had been brief, she felt a connection to him that she couldn't quite explain. Lost in thought, Lisa's voice broke into her reverie. Emma blinked and smiled sheepishly. Just thinking about a customer. Lisa raised an eyebrow and put a teasing smile on her lips. Oh. Anyone interesting? Emma hesitated, then decided to share. There's this guy, Alex. He comes in every week to buy flowers for his father's grave. He's different. Kind, but there's something more. Lisa's smile widened. Sounds like someone has a crush. Emma laughed, shaking her head. It's not like that. He's nice, but we've only talked a few times. Still, he's on your mind, Lisa pointed out. Maybe there's something there. Emma shrugged but couldn't deny that Alex had made an impression on her. She pushed the thought aside for now, focusing instead on the task. But in her mind, she wondered when she might see him again. Alex's visits. The weeks passed, and true to his word, Alex became a regular at the flower shop. Every Saturday morning, without fail, the bell above the door would chime, and Alex would step inside, bringing a sense of anticipation with him. Good morning, Alex, Emma greeted him warmly, her smile genuine. Good morning, Emma, he replied, his smile more open than at their first meeting. As Emma helped him choose the flowers for that week, their conversations grew more personal. Alex spoke a little about his father, sharing small, intimate details that painted a picture of a man who had been deeply loved and greatly missed. My father was a man of simple tastes, Alex said one morning as he examined a bouquet of lilies. He appreciated the beauty in small things, like these flowers. Emma nodded, touched by his words. He sounds like he was a wonderful man. He was, Alex replied, his voice tinged with sadness. I miss him every day. Emma placed a hand on his arm, offering silent comfort. It's clear how much you loved him. These flowers are a beautiful way to honor his memory. Alex looked at her, his eyes softening. Thank you. That means a lot. Despite the growing closeness, there was still an air of mystery about Alex. Emma noticed the expensive car he drove, a sleek black vehicle that seemed out of place in the modest neighborhood. When she asked him about his job, his answers were always vague, leaving her curious but not wanting to pry. What do you do for work? Emma asked one day as she wrapped up his bouquet. I'm in business, Alex replied with a small smile. It's not very interesting. Emma laughed lightly. You must be good at it. That car you drive is impressive. Alex's smile widened, but there was a hint of something guarded in his eyes. I've been fortunate. My father always told me to work hard and seize opportunities. Emma sensed more to the story, but she didn't push. She enjoyed their conversations and the easy rapport they had developed. Alex was different from anyone she had ever met, and she looked forward to his visits more and more. One Saturday, Alex surprised her by bringing a coffee from her favorite cafe. "I thought you might like a little treat," he said, handing her the cup with a charming smile. Emma's heart fluttered. "Thank you. That's very thoughtful of you." They sat together in a quiet corner of the shop, sipping coffee and chatting. Emma opened up to him, sharing stories about her childhood and her love for flowers. "I've always loved flowers," she said, her eyes shining enthusiastically. "There's something magical about them. They bring so much joy and beauty into the world." Alex watched her with a soft expression. "You're lucky to have found something you're passionate about. Not everyone gets that." Emma nodded, feeling a deep sense of contentment. "I am lucky. And I'm glad you found our shop. It's been nice getting to know you. I look forward to our conversations every week." As they finished their coffee, Emma felt a growing warmth in her heart. Alex was becoming more than just a customer, he was becoming a friend, perhaps even more. The mystery surrounding him only added to his allure, and she was eager to learn more about the man behind the charming smile. Growing connection. It was another bustling Saturday morning at the flower shop, and Emma looked forward to Alex's visit more than ever. She was arranging a display of vibrant tulips when the bell's familiar chime announced his arrival. She looked up, a smile already forming on her lips. "Good morning, Alex," she greeted him, her eyes sparkling. "Morning, Emma," he replied, his smile warm and inviting. As they moved through their now familiar routine of selecting flowers, their conversation flowed easily. Today, Alex seemed more relaxed and more open, and Emma decided to seize the opportunity to learn more about him. "What was your favorite thing to do with your father?" she asked as she wrapped the bouquet. Alex paused, a nostalgic look crossing his face. "We used to go fishing. We'd spend a week at this little cabin by the lake every summer. It was our special place, away from everything." Emma could picture the serene lake and the bond between father and son. "That sounds wonderful. I bet those are some of your best memories." Alex agreed, his smile tinged with wishfulness. "I miss those times." Emma nodded, feeling a pang of sympathy. "Thank you for sharing that with me." Their eyes met, and the world outside the flower shop seemed to fade away for a moment. There was an unspoken understanding between them, a connection beyond words. The door to the back room swung open, and Lisa walked in carrying a large vase. She glanced between Emma and Alex, her eyes twinkling with mischief. "Am I interrupting something?" Emma blushed, shaking her head. "No. We were just talking." Lisa set the vase down and leaned against the counter with a playful grin. "Talking, huh? Seems like you two have a lot to say to each other." Alex chuckled, and Emma shot Lisa a half-annoyed, half-amused look. "Lisa, this is Alex." "Alex, this is my friend and colleague, Lisa." "Nice to meet you," Lisa said, extending her hand. "Likewise," Alex replied, shaking her hand. Lisa gave Emma a knowing look before excusing herself. "I'll leave you two to your conversation." Once Lisa was out of earshot, Emma sighed, embarrassed but smiling. "Sorry about that. Lisa likes to tease." "It's fine," Alex said, his eyes twinkling. "I think it's nice you have a friend who cares about you." Emma felt a warm glow at his words. "Yeah, Lisa's great. She's like a sister to me." As they continued their conversation, Emma shared more personal details, like her favorite books and her love for cooking. Alex listened intently, his attention never wavering. "I'd love to try your cooking sometime," Alex said, his tone light but sincere. Emma laughed softly. Maybe one day. I make a mean lasagna. I'll hold you to that, Alex replied, a playful challenge in his eyes. Their banter was easy and natural, and Emma realized immediately how much she enjoyed his company. There was something about Alex that made her feel seen and appreciated in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. The shop grew busier as the morning wore on, and Alex reluctantly said his goodbyes. Thank you for the flowers, Emma. And for the conversation. Anytime, Alex, she replied, her smile lingering long after he had left. Lisa reappeared, her curiosity evident. So, what's the deal with Mr. Tall, dark, and handsome? Emma rolled her eyes but couldn't suppress her smile. He's just a customer. A nice one, but still a customer. Aha, Lisa said, clearly unconvinced. Just a customer who you light up for every Saturday. Emma shrugged, trying to downplay her feelings. He's interesting, that's all. There's something about him. Something mysterious, Lisa added, winking. Well, I hope it works out. You deserve someone special. Emma appreciated Lisa's support but couldn't help but feel a twinge of uncertainty. Alex was indeed special, but she still knew little about him. Yet, each visit only deepened her interest and admiration for him. As she went about the rest of her day, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that Alex's visits were becoming more than just a routine, they were becoming the highlight of her week. And she couldn't wait to see where this connection might lead. Invitation. The flower shop was quiet that Saturday afternoon, a peaceful lull after the morning rush. Emma was tidying up the counter when the familiar bell chime signaled Alex's arrival. She looked up, her heart skipping at the sight of him. Good afternoon, Alex, she greeted, her smile bright. Good afternoon, Emma, he replied, his eyes lighting up as he approached the counter. Today, Alex seemed different. There was a subtle air of determination about him, a sense of purpose that Emma couldn't quite place. She noticed him glancing at her more frequently as she helped him choose the flowers for his father's grave as if he were working up the courage to say something. After she wrapped the bouquet and handed it to him, Alex hesitated. Emma, I was wondering, would you like to go for coffee with me sometime? Emma's heart raced. She had sensed a growing connection between them, but this was the first time he had made a move. She hesitated momentarily, her mind racing with excitement and a touch of nervousness. I'd love to, she said, her smile widening. Alex's face broke into a genuine smile. Great. How about now? If you're not too busy, that is. Emma glanced around the shop. It was a quiet time of day, and Lisa could handle things independently for a little while. Now sounds perfect. She quickly let Lisa know she was stepping out, receiving an approving nod and a wink from her friend. Emma joined Alex at the door, feeling excitement and anticipation. They walked to a nearby coffee shop, the one where Alex had brought her coffee from before. The atmosphere was cozy and inviting, filled with the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the soft hum of conversation. They found a quiet corner and settled into their seats, the moment feeling both exhilarating and strangely comfortable. So, tell me more about yourself, Alex said as he stirred his coffee. I feel like I know bits and pieces, but I'd love to hear more. Emma smiled, feeling a warm flush of pleasure. Well, I've lived in this city my whole life. I've always loved flowers, ever since I was a little girl. My parents had a small garden and I spent hours there, just taking in the colors and scents. That sounds wonderful, Alex said, his eyes attentive. It must be nice to do what you love for a living. It is, Emma agreed. What about you? You mentioned you're in business, but I feel like there's more to it than that. Alex took a sip of his coffee, his expression thoughtful. It's a bit complicated. My work involves a lot of different aspects, management, logistics, and so on. It keeps me busy, but I enjoy it. Emma sensed he wasn't saying more, but she decided not to push. Instead, she focused on the fact that he was here with her, sharing this moment. They talked for over an hour, exchanging stories and laughing over shared anecdotes. Emma found herself increasingly drawn to Alex. He had a way of making her feel seen and appreciated, something she hadn't experienced in a long time. As they finished their coffee, Alex looked at her with a serious expression. "Emma, I really enjoy spending time with you. I'd like to see you again if you're interested." Emma's heart soared. "I'd like that too, Alex. Very much." He smiled, a look of relief and happiness crossing his face. "Great. How about dinner next Friday? I know a great place." "It's a date," Emma replied, feeling a flutter of excitement. They left the coffee shop together, walking back to the flower shop in comfortable silence. As they reached the door, Alex turned to her, his expression earnest. "Thank you for today. It was wonderful." "It was," Emma agreed, feeling a warm glow. "I'm looking forward to Friday." "Me too," Alex said softly. "Have a great rest of your day." "You too, Alex," Emma replied, watching as he walked away, her heart full of anticipation for what was to come. As she re-entered the flower shop, Lisa greeted her with a knowing smile. "So, how did it go?" Emma couldn't suppress her grin. "It was perfect. We're going out for dinner next Friday." Lisa clapped her hands in delight. "I knew it. You two are going to be great together." Emma hoped Lisa was right. As she resumed work, she couldn't help but feel that her life was about to change in ways she couldn't yet imagine. And for the first time in a long time, she felt truly excited about the future. Chapter 2: A Blossoming Romance. Building the Relationship. Friday evening arrived with a hint of magic in the air. Emma stood before her mirror, carefully applying the finishing touches to her makeup. Her heart raced with excitement and nerves as she anticipated her dinner date with Alex. She chose a simple yet elegant dress, the deep blue fabric complementing her eyes. With a final glance in the mirror, she grabbed her purse and headed out the door. When she arrived at the restaurant, she found Alex waiting outside. He looked handsome in a tailored suit, his dark hair neatly styled. He smiled warmly as he saw her approach. "Emma, you look stunning," he said, his eyes full of genuine admiration. "Thank you, Alex," she replied, feeling a warm blush rise to her cheeks. "You look great too." He offered his arm, and she took it, feeling a thrill of connection as they walked into the restaurant together. The ambience inside was cozy and romantic, with soft lighting and gentle music playing in the background. They were shown to a quiet corner table, where they settled in comfortably. As they perused the menu, their conversation flowed easily. They shared stories about their childhoods, favorite books, and the little things that brought them joy. Emma laughed more than she had in a long time, enjoying Alex's witty humor and thoughtful insights. "I've always loved Italian food," Emma said as she twirled a forkful of pasta. "It reminds me of the family dinners we used to have on Sundays." Alex smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Me too. My mother used to make the best lasagna. She taught me how to cook, actually." Emma's eyes widened in surprise. "Really? I wouldn't have guessed you're a chef." Alex chuckled. "I wouldn't go that far, but I do enjoy cooking. Maybe I can make dinner for you sometime." "I'd like that," Emma said, feeling a flutter of excitement at the thought. As the evening progressed, Emma couldn't help but notice the way Alex's eyes would sometimes cloud over, as if he were lost in thought. It was subtle but hinted at a depth of emotion and complexity that intrigued her. She wondered what secrets he might be hiding but didn't press him for answers. For now, she was content to enjoy the present moment, wrapped in the warmth of his company. After dinner, Alex suggested a walk, and they strolled through the quiet streets, the cool night air refreshing. They found themselves in a small park, the gentle glow of street lamps casting a romantic light over the scene. They sat on a bench, close but not touching, their conversation becoming more intimate. "Emma, I've been thinking a lot about us," Alex began, his voice soft but earnest. "I really enjoy spending time with you. You're different from anyone I've ever met." Emma's heart skipped a beat. "I feel the same way. There's something special about you." He reached out and took her hand, his touch sending a shiver of electricity through her. "I know we haven't known each other long, but I feel a connection with you that I can't ignore. I want to see where this can go." Emma looked into his eyes, seeing the sincerity there. "I do, too. I'm willing to take that chance." Their faces were close now, the world around them fading away. Alex leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull back if she wanted to. But she didn't. She closed the distance, their lips meeting in a gentle, tender kiss that sent a rush of warmth through her entire being. When they finally pulled apart, they were both smiling, their bond feeling stronger than ever. They walked back to her apartment hand in hand, the silence comfortable and filled with promise. As they stood outside her door, Alex looked at her with a mix of affection and something deeper, something unspoken. "Thank you for tonight. It was perfect." It was, as she agreed, feeling a sense of contentment she hadn't felt in a long time. "Good night." "Good night, Emma," he replied, his eyes lingering on her as she stepped inside. As she closed the door behind her, Emma leaned against it, a smile playing on her lips. She had no idea where this journey with Alex would lead, but for the first time in a long time, she felt truly hopeful about the future. Hints of mystery. As time passed, Emma and Alex's relationship blossomed. They spent more and more time together, exploring the city, sharing meals, and discovering each other's quirks and passions. Emma fell for Alex, drawn to his charm, kindness, and a deep sense of caring. One Saturday afternoon, they decided to visit a local art gallery. Emma loved art and was excited to share this passion with Alex. She noticed his attentiveness and genuine interest as they wandered through the exhibits, even though he admitted he wasn't much of an art enthusiast. "This one is my favorite," Emma said, stopping in front of a vibrant painting of a meadow in full bloom. "It reminds me of the flower shop." Alex smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "It's beautiful, just like you." Emma blushed, looking down shyly. "Thank you." They continued to stroll through the gallery, their hands occasionally brushing against each other. As they moved to the next exhibit, Emma noticed a group of people in suits, their expressions serious as they spoke in hushed tones. Alex's demeanor changed slightly. His posture stiffened, and his eyes darted briefly in their direction. "Everything okay?" Emma asked, sensing his sudden tension. Alex quickly composed himself, offering her a reassuring smile. "Yes, everything's fine. Just a bit of work stuff on my mind." Emma nodded, accepting his explanation, but a small seed of doubt was planted in her mind. This wasn't the first time she had noticed Alex becoming distracted or evasive when certain topics came up. Still, she pushed the thought aside, not wanting to spoil their day together. Later that evening, as they sat in a cozy cafe enjoying dessert, Emma asked Alex more about his work. "You've mentioned your job a few times, but I realized I don't know much about what you do. Can you tell me more?" Alex hesitated, his fork pausing midair. "It's really not that interesting. I manage logistics and operations for a company. It's mostly paperwork and meetings." Emma smiled, trying to keep the conversation light. It sounds important. You must be very good at it. Alex shrugged, a hint of discomfort in his expression. I do what I can. It pays the bills. Emma sensed he wasn't being honest, but she didn't want to push him too hard. She changed the subject, hoping to bring back the easygoing atmosphere they usually enjoyed. Well, if you ever need a break from all that paperwork, you're always welcome to join me at the flower shop. We could use someone with your strong arms to help carry heavy deliveries. Alex chuckled, visibly relaxing. I'll keep that in mind. Maybe I'll take you up on that offer one day. Their conversation shifted to lighter topics, and the evening ended on a high note. But as Emma lay in bed that night, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Alex's story than he was letting on. The following week, Alex invited Emma to his apartment for dinner. She was excited to see where he lived, imagining a space as sophisticated and charming as he was. When she arrived, she was not disappointed. His apartment was tastefully decorated, with modern furniture and artwork hinting at refined taste. Welcome to my humble abode, Alex said with a grin as he opened the door for her. Humble. This place is amazing. Emma exclaimed, taking in the elegant surroundings. Alex shrugged modestly. I try to keep it comfortable. Can I get you something to drink? A glass of wine would be lovely, thank you. As Alex busied himself in the kitchen, Emma wandered around the living room, admiring the wall art and neatly arranged bookshelves. She picked up a framed photograph from a side table, noticing it was a picture of a younger Alex with an older man, presumably his father. They were both smiling, looking happy and carefree. That's my father, Alex said, coming up behind her with 2 glasses of wine. It was taken at our cabin by the lake. We used to go there every summer. Emma smiled, touched by the glimpse into his past. You've mentioned the cabin before. It sounds like a special place. It was. I haven't been back since he passed away. Maybe someday. They clinked their glasses and moved to the dining table, where Alex had prepared a delicious meal. Their conversation flowed easily as they ate, filled with laughter and shared stories. But Emma couldn't help but notice the occasional flicker of distraction in Alex's eyes, as if his mind was elsewhere. After dinner, they settled on the couch, enjoying the comfortable silence. Emma leaned her head on Alex's shoulder, feeling content and at peace. But the questions about his life and his work lingered in the back of her mind like shadows on a sunny day. As the night drew to a close, Alex walked her to the door, his expression warm and affectionate. Thank you for coming over. I had a wonderful time. Me too, she replied, standing on her tiptoes to kiss him softly. Good night. Good night, he whispered, watching as she walked down the hallway. As Emma drove home, she found herself thinking about the small inconsistencies and the moments of distraction she had noticed. She cared deeply for Alex, but she couldn't shake the feeling that there was something he wasn't telling her. She decided to trust him and see where their relationship would lead. But the seed of doubt had been planted and would only grow as time passed. Romantic date. The days flew by in a whirl of work and anticipation. Emma threw herself into her job at the flower shop, finding solace in the vibrant colors and soothing scents surrounding her daily. Yet, her thoughts frequently drifted to Alex and their shared moments. She cherished the memory of their last date, the tenderness in his kiss, and the promise of something deeper. Alex, too, found himself thinking about Emma more often than he cared to admit. His life was a complex web of responsibilities and secrets, but Emma had become a bright spot amidst the shadows. Her genuine kindness and infectious laughter were like a balm to his soul. One evening, Alex decided to surprise Emma with a special date. He called her, his voice warm and inviting. Emma, are you free tomorrow night? I have something planned, and I'd love for you to join me. Emma's heart skipped a beat. I'd love to. What's the plan? It's a surprise, he replied with a chuckle. Just dress warmly and be ready at 7. Emma stood in front of her mirror the next evening, selecting a warm and stylish outfit. She opted for a cozy sweater, jeans, and comfortable boots. With a final touch of lipstick, she grabbed her coat and headed out the door. He greeted her with a wide smile when she arrived at Alex's place. You look perfect, he said, taking her hand. Ready for your surprise? Absolutely, Emma replied, her curiosity piqued. They drove through the city, the streets illuminated by the soft glow of streetlights. Alex easily navigated the bustling traffic, his hand resting on Emma's knee, a comforting presence. Finally, they arrived at their destination, a picturesque ice skating rink nestled in a charming park. Emma's eyes lit up with delight. Ice skating. I haven't done this in years. Alex grinned, pleased with her reaction. I thought it might be fun. Shall we? They laced up their skates and took to the ice, their laughter mingling with the sounds of children and families enjoying the winter activity. Emma wobbled a bit at first, but Alex was there to steady her, his strong hands guiding her movements. They glided across the ice, the cold air biting at their cheeks, but the warmth of their connection kept them close. Emma felt a sense of freedom and joy she hadn't experienced in a long time as they skated. She couldn't remember the last time she had let go and just had fun. Alex was a skilled skater, effortlessly graceful, and he encouraged her with each step, his laughter infectious. Look at you, you're a natural. Alex praised, his eyes sparkling with admiration. Emma laughed, feeling a rush of pride. Only because I have a great teacher. After an hour on the ice, they decided to take a break. They found a small bench near the rink's edge and sat down, their breaths visible in the chilly air. Alex handed Emma a cup of hot cocoa, the warmth seeping through her gloves. This is perfect. Thank you, Emma said, sipping the rich, sweet drink. I'm glad you're enjoying it, he replied, his gaze tender. I wanted to do something special for you. Emma leaned closer, her heart swelling with affection. You've certainly succeeded. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the skaters glide by. Then, Alex turned to her, his expression serious. Emma, I've been wanting to tell you something. Her heart skipped a beat. What is it, Alex? He took a deep breath, his eyes searching hers. I care about you a lot. More than I've cared about anyone in a long time. I know things about my life seem mysterious, and I promise I'll explain everything in time. But for now, I want you to know you're important to me. Emma felt a rush of emotion, her eyes filling with tears. You're important to me too, Alex. I trust you. Alex smiled, relief evident on his face. He leaned in, his lips brushing against hers in a tender kiss. Emma closed her eyes, savoring the warmth and softness of his touch. The world around them faded away, leaving only the two of them connected by a bond that was growing stronger with each passing day. When they finally pulled apart, Emma rested her head on Alex's shoulder, feeling a deep sense of contentment. They continued to watch the skaters, their hearts beating in unison, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Separate lives. The morning sun streamed through the windows of the flower shop, casting a warm glow over the colorful blooms that filled the space. Emma moved gracefully among the flowers, her hands deftly arranging bouquets and tending to the plants. She loved her job, which showed in her meticulous care with each arrangement. Morning, Emma, Lisa called out as she entered the shop, her arms full of fresh flowers. I brought in the new delivery. Thanks, Emma replied, smiling. let's get these sorted." The two women worked side by side, and their easy camaraderie made the task enjoyable. As they chatted about their weekend plans and the latest gossip, Emma couldn't help but think about Alex. Her mind drifted to their romantic date, his hand in hers, and the warmth of his kiss. "Earth to Emma," Lisa teased, waving a hand in front of her friend's face. "You're daydreaming again. Let me guess, it's about a certain handsome customer." Emma laughed, shaking her head. "You caught me. I was just thinking about Alex." Lisa grinned. "I knew it. So, how are things going with him?" "Really well," Emma said, a dreamy smile on her lips. "He took me ice skating, and it was perfect. I feel like I'm falling for him. It's scary but wonderful at the same time." Lisa's expression softened. "I'm happy for you. You deserve someone who makes you feel special. Just be careful, okay?" Emma nodded, appreciating her friend's concern. "I will. Thanks." Meanwhile, across town, Alex navigated a very different world. His office starkly contrasted with the flower shop, filled with sleek furniture and the hum of high-tech gadgets. He sat at his desk, reviewing documents and making calls, his mind never far from the thoughts of Emma. Despite the complexities of his life, Emma had become a source of light for Alex. She was a reminder of the simple joys he had once known, a beacon of hope in a world filled with shadows. But his work demanded secrecy and a certain level of detachment, which he struggled with daily. As he finished a call, his phone buzzed with a message from his boss.
It was a reminder of an important meeting later that day.
Alex sighed, rubbing his temples. He had chosen this life, but it wasn't without its challenges. The weight of his double life was starting to take its toll. When evening came, Alex prepared for the meeting, donning a sharp suit and checking his appearance in the mirror. He left his apartment, the weight of his responsibilities heavy on his shoulders. The meeting was held in a dimly lit room at an upscale restaurant, the air thick with tension and power. Victor sat at the head of the table, his piercing gaze sweeping over the gathered members. "Good evening, gentlemen. We have important matters to discuss." Alex listened intently, contributing when necessary but keeping a low profile. He was careful with his words, aware that any misstep could be dangerous. The meeting dragged on, and Alex felt drained when it ended. As he drove home, his thoughts returned to Emma. She was the bright spot in his life, making him feel human again. He needed to see her, feel her warmth, and remind himself why he was doing all this. He called Emma as soon as he got home, his voice tired but filled with affection. "Hey, Emma. How was your day?" Emma's voice was like a balm to his weary soul. "Hi. It was good. Busy, but good. How about you?" "Long," he admitted, sinking onto his couch. "But hearing your voice makes it better." Emma smiled, touched by his words. "I'm glad. I miss you." "I miss you too," Alex said softly. "How about we do something this weekend? Just the two of us." "I'd love that," Emma replied, her heart lifting. "Any ideas?" "Maybe a hike. There's a beautiful trail, I know. It's quiet and secluded, perfect for spending time together." "That sounds perfect," Emma agreed. "I can't wait." As they discussed their plans, the distance between their separate lives seemed to shrink. Despite the complexities and the secrets, their bond continued to grow, fueled by moments of connection and shared dreams. Weekend getaway. The weekend arrived, bringing the promise of adventure and a much-needed escape from the daily grind. Emma packed a small backpack with water, snacks, and a cozy blanket. She wore comfortable hiking clothes and sturdy boots, ready for the day ahead. The anticipation of spending time with Alex and the tranquil beauty of nature filled her with excitement. Alex arrived at Emma's apartment on time, looking effortlessly handsome in casual hiking attire. He greeted her with a warm smile and a gentle kiss. "Ready for our adventure?" "Absolutely," Emma replied, her eyes sparkling. "Let's go." They drove out of the city, the urban landscape gradually giving way to rolling hills and dense forests. Alex had chosen an off-the-beaten-path trail, promising seclusion and stunning views. As they parked the car and started their hike, the fresh air and the sounds of nature enveloped them. "This place is beautiful," taking in the towering trees and the sunlight filtering through the leaves. "I thought you'd like it," Alex replied, reaching out to take her hand. "It's one of my favorite spots." They walked hand in hand, their conversation light and filled with laughter. Emma felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in a long time, the world's worries slipping away with each step. They stopped occasionally to admire the scenery, share stories, and enjoy the simple pleasure of each other's company. As they reached a clearing with a breathtaking view of the valley below, Alex spread out the blanket he had brought, and they sat down to rest. Emma leaned against him, feeling a deep sense of contentment. They shared the snacks Emma had packed, discussing their hopes and dreams. "Do you ever think about the future, Emma?" Alex asked, his tone thoughtful. "Sometimes," Emma replied, looking out over the valley. "I hope to have a family one day, to continue working with flowers, and to find happiness in the little things." Alex smiled, his eyes soft. "I can see you with a beautiful garden, surrounded by flowers and children." Emma blushed, her heart warming at the thought. "What about you? What do you see in your future?" Alex hesitated, his gaze distant for a moment. "I'm not sure. My life is complicated, but I'd like to think there's a future where I can find peace and happiness." Emma touched his face, bringing his attention back to her. "I believe you will. You deserve that." They shared a tender kiss, the world around them fading away. But just as they were lost in the moment, Alex's phone rang, shattering the peaceful silence. He pulled back, a look of annoyance crossing his face as he glanced at the caller ID. "Sorry. I need to take this," he said, standing up and walking a few steps away. Emma watched him, her curiosity piqued. She couldn't hear the conversation but could see the tension in his posture. It was a stark reminder of the mysterious side of Alex's life that he rarely spoke about. After a few minutes, Alex ended the call and returned to Emma, his expression apologetic. "I'm sorry about that. Work stuff." Emma nodded, trying to hide her concern. "It's okay. Is everything all right?" "Yeah, it's fine," Alex replied, though his eyes betrayed a hint of frustration. "Just some business that needed my attention." Emma decided not to press him for details, sensing that it was a topic he wasn't ready to discuss. Instead, she reached out and took his hand, reassuringly squeezing it. "Let's not let it ruin our day." Alex smiled gratitude in his eyes. "You're right. Let's enjoy this beautiful day together." They continued their hike, the interruption soon forgotten as they immersed themselves in the natural beauty around them. They discovered a hidden waterfall, its cascading waters creating a soothing symphony that added to the day's magic. They stood by the water's edge, holding hands and feeling the mist on their faces, a shared sense of wonder filling their hearts. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the landscape, they returned to the car. The drive home was filled with easy conversation and comfortable silence, their bond stronger than ever. When they arrived at Emma's apartment, Alex walked her to the door, his hand lingering on hers. "Thank you for today. It was perfect." "It really was," Emma agreed, standing on her tiptoes to kiss him softly. "I can't wait for our next adventure." "Neither can I," Alex said, his eyes filled with affection. Good night, watching as he walked away, smiling. As she closed the door behind her, Emma felt mixed emotions. She fell in love with Alex, and their time together had been wonderful. But the phone call reminded her of his life's complexities and the questions that lingered in her mind. She focused on the positives, hoping the mysteries would unravel and their love would grow. Chapter 3: Secrets and Lies. Alex's dual life. The early morning hours found Alex in a part of the city far removed from the tranquil beauty of the hiking trail he had shared with Emma. The sun had not yet risen, and the streets were quiet, cloaked in the shadows of night. Alex stood outside a nondescript warehouse, the chill of the pre-dawn air doing little to alleviate the tension that gnawed at his muscles. He glanced at his watch, then at the heavy steel door in front of him. It swung open with a creak, and a burly man with a stern face beckoned him inside. Alex stepped into the dimly lit interior, his senses on high alert. "Right on time," said Victor, as he approached Alex. "I like that." Alex nodded, his expression neutral. "What's the job today?" Victor handed him a small package wrapped in brown paper. "Delivery. Simple enough. Just make sure it gets to the address on the label, and don't ask questions." Alex took the package, slipping it into his jacket pocket. "Consider it done." Victor's eyes narrowed, a hint of menace in his gaze. "And Alex, remember what happens if you fail us." "I won't," Alex replied, his voice steady. "You have my word." Victor nodded, satisfied. "Good. Now get going." As Alex left the warehouse, his mind raced. He had chosen this life and had accepted the risks and the rewards that came with it. But the stakes were higher now, with Emma in his life. He couldn't afford to make mistakes. Driving through the city, Alex followed the instructions on the package, his thoughts drifting to Emma. He hated lying to her but knew that revealing the truth would only endanger her. The duality of his existence weighed heavily on him, his love for Emma clashing with the darkness of his other life. The address led him to a rundown apartment building on the city's outskirts. He parked the car and went to the designated apartment, his steps echoing in the empty hallway. He knocked on the door, waiting for the familiar series of clicks and clanks as the locks were undone. The door opened a crack, and wary eyes peered out. "Who are you?" "Delivery," Alex replied, holding up the package. The door opened wider, revealing a thin man with nervous eyes. He took the package from Alex, his hands shaking slightly. "Thanks. Tell Victor it's all here." Alex nodded, turning to leave. As he walked away, he couldn't shake the feeling of unease that settled over him. He knew the contents of the package were likely illegal, but he had long since stopped asking questions. It was part of the job and the life he had chosen. Back in his car, Alex allowed himself a moment of respite. He pulled out his phone and checked the time. There were still a few hours before he needed to be at the office, time enough to clear his head and focus on the legitimate side of his business. He drove to a small cafe he frequented, ordering a strong black coffee and sitting at a corner table. As he sipped his coffee, his thoughts once again drifted to Emma. He wished he could tell her everything, to be honest with her about who he was and what he did. But he couldn't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The rest of the day passed in a blur of meetings and paperwork. Alex moved through his tasks with practiced efficiency, but his mind was elsewhere. He couldn't stop thinking about the look in Emma's eyes when she talked about the future, the hope and trust she placed in him. It made him want to be a better man, to find a way out of the life he was trapped in. As evening approached, Alex returned to his apartment, the weight of his double life pressing down on him. He poured himself a drink, staring out the window at the city lights below. The phone on his desk buzzed, and he picked it up, seeing Emma's name on the screen. He answered, his voice softening at the sound of her voice. "Hi," she replied. "I was just thinking about you. How was your day?" "It was busy," he said, trying to keep his tone light. "But I'm glad to be home now. How about you?" "It was good," Emma replied. "I missed you." "I missed you too," Alex said, feeling a pang of guilt. "I was thinking, maybe we could do something this weekend. Just the two of us." "I'd love that," Emma said, her voice filled with warmth. "How about a movie night at my place?" "Sounds perfect," Alex agreed. "I'll bring the popcorn." As they ended the call, Alex felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, there was a way to balance the two sides of his life. But deep down, he knew that the secrets and lies would eventually catch up with him. And when they did, he could only hope that Emma would still be by his side. The detective's hunt. Detective Mark Anderson sat at his cluttered desk in the police precinct, a cup of lukewarm coffee in one hand and a stack of files in front of him. His eyes were bloodshot from lack of sleep, and his expression was one of grim determination. For months, he had been working tirelessly to dismantle the network of criminal activities tied to the city's most notorious mob. Mark was a seasoned detective known for his tenacity and sharp instincts. He had seen it all, from petty thefts to high-profile murders, but this case was different. The mob was sophisticated, and its operations were seamless, leaving behind little evidence and few witnesses. But Mark was relentless, determined to bring them to justice. He sifted through the files, reviewing the latest intel. The recent uptick in illegal activities had caught his attention: drug trafficking, money laundering, and a series of high-profile robberies. The pattern was clear, but the mastermind behind it all remained elusive. Mark's eyes narrowed as he studied a photograph of Victor, the mob's leader. Victor was cunning, ruthless, and always one step ahead. But Mark felt gutted that someone else was working behind the scenes. As he flipped through the pages, a name caught his eye: Alex. There were several mentions of a man named Alex in connection with the mob's operations, but no concrete evidence linking him directly to the crimes. Mark leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. Who was this Alex, and what role did he play in the mob's activities? Determined to find out, Mark decided to dig deeper. He started by looking into Alex's background, piecing together a profile from bits of information he could find. Alex was a successful businessman known for his charm and good looks. He had a clean record, no criminal history, and a seemingly perfect life. But Mark knew better than to take things at face value. He reached for his phone and called in a favor from a contact in the financial sector. "I need everything you can find on Alex," he said, his voice low and urgent. "Bank records, transactions, any unusual activity. And they need it fast." As he waited for the information, Mark focused on finding a connection that could link Alex to the mob. He knew this lead could be the break he needed, but it required careful investigation. Later that evening, a clearer picture emerged as Mark pored over the new information. Several suspicious transactions were linked to Alex's accounts, large sums of money moving in and out without any apparent reason. Mark's instincts told him that Alex was more than just a peripheral player; he was deeply involved in the mob's operations. With this new lead, Mark felt a surge of determination. He needed to find a way to connect Alex to the crimes and bring him down. He started by visiting the places Alex frequented, hoping to gather more information. The next day, Mark visited the flower shop where Alex often bought flowers. He needed to see if there was anything or anyone that could provide more insight into Alex's life. As he entered the shop, the scent of fresh flowers greeted him, a stark contrast to the gritty reality of his work. "Good afternoon," Emma said, looking up from her workbench. "How can I help you today?" Mark forced a smile, his mind focused on the task at hand. Hi, I'm looking for a bouquet. Something special for someone important to me. Emma smiled warmly. Of course. Do you have any preferences? As Emma worked on the bouquet, Mark made small talk, trying to gather as much information as possible without raising suspicion. You have a lovely shop. How long have you been here? Thank you, Emma replied. I've been working here for a few years now. I love it. It's my happy place. Mark nodded, glancing around the shop. I can see why. Do you work alone, or do you have help? I have a colleague, Lisa, who helps out, Emma said, her hands deftly arranging the flowers. And sometimes my boyfriend, Alex, stops by. He's been really supportive. Mark's ears perked up at the mention of Alex. He kept his tone casual, not wanting to alert Emma to his real intentions. That's nice. It's always great to have someone supportive. What does he do? Emma looked up, a proud smile on her face. He's in business. He's really good at what he does but always makes time for me. Mark nodded, filing away this information. Emma seemed genuinely happy and completely unaware of Alex's other life. He needed to tread carefully and gather more information without risking her. As Emma handed him the finished bouquet, Mark thanked her, his thoughts already turning to his next move. He had a lead now, a way to connect Alex to the mob's activities. However, he needed to proceed cautiously to ensure that Emma stayed safe while he continued his investigation. Mark felt a renewed sense of purpose as he left the flower shop. The hunt was on, and he wouldn't rest until he had brought Alex and the rest of the mob to justice. But he also knew that the path ahead was fraught with danger, and he would need to be careful to avoid any collateral damage. Part 4: Emma's Doubts. The days passed in a blur of work and stolen moments with Alex. Emma's life seemed to fall into a comfortable rhythm, but a nagging feeling of unease began to creep into her thoughts. Small inconsistencies in Alex's stories and his occasional distracted behavior started to raise questions in her mind. One evening, as Emma was closing up the flower shop, Lisa walked in with a curious expression. Hey, Emma. Everything all right? You seem a bit off lately. Emma sighed, rubbing her temples. I'm not sure. It's Alex. I love spending time with him, but sometimes he seems distant. There are moments when I feel like he's hiding something from me. Lisa frowned, leaning against the counter. What do you mean? Emma hesitated, then decided to share her concerns. It's just little things. He'll get a phone call and leave the room to take it. Or he'll cancel plans at the last minute, saying he has work stuff to handle. And then there's how he sometimes looks at me like he's worried about something. Lisa nodded thoughtfully. Have you talked to him about it? Not directly, Emma admitted. I don't want to seem paranoid, but it's starting to bother me. Maybe you should ask him, Lisa suggested gently. If he cares about you, he'll be honest. And if something is going on, it's better to know sooner rather than later. Emma knew Lisa was right. That evening, as she prepared for her date with Alex, she resolved to bring up her concerns. She wanted to trust him, but the doubts gnawed at her, and she needed to clear the air. When Alex arrived, he greeted her with his usual warm smile, but Emma could see the tiredness in his eyes. They had dinner at a cozy little restaurant, their conversation light and filled with laughter. But as they returned to her apartment, Emma decided it was time to address the elephant in the room. Alex, can we talk for a minute? She asked, her voice steady but nervous. Of course, he replied, sensing the seriousness in her tone. What's on your mind? Emma took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. I've been noticing some things lately. Little things that don't quite add up. You've been distracted, and there are moments when you seem distant. I feel like there's something you're not telling me. Alex's expression shifted, a flicker of worry crossing his face. I didn't realize I was making you feel that way. I'm sorry. I just want to understand, Emma said softly. I care about you, and I want to trust you. But it's hard when I feel like there are parts of your life that you're hiding from me. Alex reached out, taking her hands in his. Emma, I promise you, there's nothing to worry about. My work can be stressful and sometimes requires my attention at odd hours. But I never want you to feel like you're not important to me. You are. Emma looked into his eyes, searching for the truth. I believe you. But if you're dealing with something, I want to help. I want to be there for you. Alex pulled her into a gentle embrace, his voice tender. You are there for me, more than you know. False reassurances. The following days were filled with a renewed connection between Alex and Emma. Alex made a conscious effort to be more present, to reassure Emma, and to dispel her doubts. He planned a romantic evening, hoping to strengthen their bond and prove his commitment to her. Alex arrived at Emma's apartment Friday evening with a bouquet of her favorite flowers. She opened the door, her face lighting up at seeing him. Alex, they're beautiful, she said, taking the bouquet and inhaling the sweet fragrance. Thank you. You're welcome, Alex replied, leaning in to kiss her softly. I thought we could have a special night in. I brought dinner and a movie. Emma's eyes sparkled with excitement. That sounds perfect. Let me just put these in water. As she arranged the flowers in a vase, Alex set up the dinner he had brought, a delicious spread of Italian dishes from their favorite restaurant. The aroma of garlic and herbs filled the apartment, creating a warm and inviting atmosphere. They sat down to eat, the conversation flowing easily. Alex was attentive and charming, making Emma laugh with his stories and genuinely listening to her. She felt the tension building inside her melt away, replaced by a sense of comfort and love. After dinner, they moved to the living room and settled on the couch. Alex put on a classic romantic movie, and they snuggled under a cozy blanket, their hands intertwined. Emma rested her head on Alex's shoulder, feeling a deep contentment. Thank you for tonight, she whispered. It's exactly what I needed. I'm glad, Alex replied, kissing her head. I just want you to be happy. As the movie played, Emma felt her doubts slipping away. She wanted to believe in their love and trust that Alex was honest with her. She glanced up at him, his profile illuminated by the flickering light of the TV. Something about him made her heart swell with affection despite the uncertainties. When the movie ended, Alex turned to her, his eyes filled with tenderness. Emma, I know things haven't always been easy, and I'm sorry if I've caused you any worry. But I want you to know how much you mean to me. You're my everything. Emma felt tears prick her eyes at his words. She reached up to cup his face, her voice trembling with emotion. I love you. I just want us to be honest with each other, to build a life together based on trust. I love you too, Emma, Alex said, his voice sincere. And I promise, I'll always do my best to be honest with you. They kissed, a slow, lingering kiss that spoke of promises and unspoken words. At that moment, Emma allowed herself to believe in their love and trust that they could overcome any obstacles together. As the night wore on, they talked about their dreams and plans for the future. Alex spoke of traveling to new places, building a home together, and sharing the life they could share. Emma listened, her heart full of hope and love. Eventually, they fell asleep in each other's arms, the doubts and fears momentarily forgotten. The night was filled with a sense of peace and belonging, a promise of what could be if they held on to their love. But even as she drifted to sleep, a small part of Emma's mind remained alert, aware that the journey ahead would not be easy. She knew there were still secrets between them, shadows that could threaten their happiness. For now, though, she focused on their love, hoping it would be enough to see them through. Chapter 4: The Detective's Hunt. Detective Mark Anderson sat in his car, parked on a quiet street in the early morning hours. The glow of the streetlights cast long shadows on the pavement, and the occasional passing car broke the silence. Mark's eyes were fixed on a small, nondescript warehouse at the end of the block. He had been watching the place for weeks, gathering information and waiting for the right moment to make his move. Mark was a seasoned detective known for his relentless pursuit of justice. His dedication to his work earned him respect among his colleagues, but it also greatly cost him. Long hours and the constant pressure of his job had strained his personal relationships, leaving him with little outside of his work. But he had made peace with that, knowing that his efforts were making a difference. His current case was one of the most challenging of his career. The mob's activities had escalated, and their network was vast and complex. Mark had been piecing together clues, following leads, and slowly closing in on the key players. One name kept appearing in his investigation: Alex. The man was elusive, his life seemingly perfect on the surface, but Mark was convinced that he was deeply involved in the mob's operations. Mark's phone buzzed, pulling him from his thoughts. He glanced at the screen and saw a message from his contact in the financial sector. A detailed report on Alex's financial transactions, filled with suspicious activity, confirmed Mark's suspicions. He scanned the information, his mind working quickly to connect the dots. A knock on his car window startled him. He looked up to see his partner, Detective Sarah Miller, standing outside. He unlocked the door, and she slid into the passenger seat, her expression serious. "Morning, Mark," Sarah said, her voice low. "Any movement?" "Not yet," Mark replied, handing her the financial report. "But take a look at this. It's the break we've been waiting for." Sarah's eyes widened as she read through the report. "This is it, Mark. This ties Alex directly to the mob's money laundering operations. We need to move on this." Mark nodded, his jaw set with determination. "I agree. But we need to be careful. If we make a move too soon, we risk losing him. We need more concrete evidence, something that will hold up in court." Sarah sighed, knowing he was right. "What's the plan?" "We keep watching," Mark said. "We gather more intel, and when the time is right, we move in. I'm not letting him slip through our fingers." They sat silently for a moment, the weight of their task heavy on their shoulders. Mark's thoughts turned to Emma, the woman he had met at the flower shop. She seemed genuine and kind, completely unaware of the danger surrounding her. He hoped she wouldn't get caught in the crossfire. As the first light of dawn began to break, Mark and Sarah prepared to leave. Their surveillance would continue, but they needed rest to stay sharp. Mark started the car, his mind already planning their next steps. "We'll get him," Mark said, his voice unwavering. "We're close. I can feel it." Sarah nodded, sharing his determination. "We will. We'll bring them all down." Mark couldn't shake the feeling that the stakes were higher than ever as they drove away. The mob was dangerous, and Alex was a key player in their operations. But he was confident in their ability to bring them to justice. They had the evidence, and they had the resolve. Now, it was just a matter of time. Suspicion raised. The days followed were a blur of routine and subtle tension for Emma. Although Alex had reassured her, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to his life than he was letting on. She tried to focus on her work, finding solace in the familiar tasks at the flower shop, but her mind often wandered back to Alex and the nagging doubt she harbored. One afternoon, as Emma was arranging a bouquet of lilies, the bell above the shop door chimed, signaling the arrival of a customer. She looked up and saw a man she didn't recognize. He had a rugged appearance, with a few days' worth of stubble and a worn leather jacket. Something about him put her on edge, but she smiled warmly nonetheless. "Good afternoon," Emma greeted. "How can I help you today?" The man approached the counter, eyes scanning the shop before settling on Emma. "Afternoon. I'm looking for some nice flowers for a special occasion." "Of course," Emma replied, her hands deftly picking out a selection of flowers. "Do you have any specific preferences?" The man shook his head. "I'll leave it up to you. You seem to know what you're doing." As Emma worked, the man watched her, his gaze intense. "This is a lovely shop. How long have you been here?" "A few years now," Emma said, trying to keep the conversation light. "It's a wonderful place to work. I love being surrounded by flowers." The man nodded, but his next question caught her off guard. "You must meet a lot of interesting people here. Anyone particularly special?" Emma hesitated, her heart quickening. "I suppose so. We get all kinds of customers." The man leaned a little closer, his voice lowering. "What about Alex? Do you know him well?" Emma's stomach twisted. "Alex? He's a regular customer. Why do you ask?" The man's expression was unreadable. "Just curious. He seems like an interesting guy." Emma forced a smile, finishing the bouquet and handing it to him. "Here you go. I hope these are suitable." "Perfect," the man said, taking the flowers. "Thanks, Emma. Have a good day." Emma felt a chill run down her spine as he left the shop. How did he know her name? And why was he asking about Alex? She couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. Later that evening, Emma met Alex for dinner. Despite her unease, she decided not to mention the strange encounter. Instead, she observed Alex closely, looking for signs that might confirm her suspicions. Alex was his usual charming self throughout the meal, but Emma noticed the occasional flicker of distraction in his eyes. When his phone buzzed with a message, he quickly glanced at it before putting it away, which did little to ease her growing concern. "Is everything all right?" "Yeah, just work stuff," Alex replied, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. "Nothing to worry about." Emma nodded, but her mind was racing. The stranger's questions and Alex's behavior were pieces of a puzzle she couldn't yet see clearly. She needed to find out more to understand what was really going on. The next day, she decided to talk to Lisa about the encounter. As they worked together in the shop, Emma recounted the strange man's visit and his questions about Alex. "That's odd," Lisa said, frowning. "Did he say who he was?" "No," Emma replied, shaking her head. "And he knew my name without me telling him." It was unsettling. Lisa's expression grew serious. "Emma, maybe you should talk to Alex about it. If this guy was asking about him, it could be important." "I will," Emma said, feeling a mix of determination and fear. "I just hope I'm not overreacting." "You're not," Lisa said firmly. "If something doesn't feel right, trust your instincts." Emma nodded, grateful for her friend's support. That evening, she called Alex, asking him to come over. She needed answers, and she hoped he would be honest with her. When Alex arrived, Emma wasted no time. "Alex, I need to talk to you about something important." Alex looked concerned, sitting down next to her on the couch. "What is it?" She took a deep breath, recounting the strange man's visit and his questions about Alex. "Do you know who he could be?" Alex's expression hardened, and for a moment, Emma saw a glimpse of the man he tried to hide. I don't know, but I'll find out. You shouldn't have to deal with this. Alex, please be honest with me, Emma said, trembling. Is there something you're not telling me? I need to know what's going on. Alex took her hands in his gaze intense. Emma, I promise you, I'm not involved in anything that would endanger you. But there are aspects of my work that are complicated. I'm trying to protect you. Emma searched his eyes, wanting to believe him. I trust you. But I need you to trust me too. If there's something I should know, please tell me. Alex nodded, pulling her into a tight embrace. I will. I promise. Just give me a little more time. As they held each other, Emma's mind raced with questions. She wanted to believe in their love, but the shadows of doubt loomed ever larger. She resolved to be vigilant and seek the truth, even if it meant facing difficult realities. For now, she would hold on to Alex's reassurances, hoping their bond would be strong enough to withstand whatever challenges lay ahead. A romantic getaway. Alex surprised Emma with an even more elaborate plan the week after their weekend in the countryside. He invited her to spend a few days on a sunny island, a place where they could escape completely and enjoy each other's company without any distractions. They boarded a small plane early in the morning, and Emma marveled at the turquoise waters and pristine beaches as they descended toward their destination. Alex had rented a private villa overlooking the ocean, and Emma felt like she had stepped into a dream as they arrived. This place is incredible, Emma said, her eyes wide with wonder. I wanted to make it special, Alex replied, his arm around her waist. We deserve a little paradise. They spent their days lounging by the pool, exploring the island, and savoring delicious meals at seaside restaurants. The warmth of the sun and the gentle sound of the waves created a perfect backdrop for their growing love. Emma felt her worries dissipate in the face of such beauty and tranquility. One evening, after a particularly romantic dinner, they walked hand in hand along the beach, the setting sun casting a golden glow over the sand. Emma felt a deep sense of contentment as she leaned against Alex, listening to the rhythmic crash of the waves. This has been the most amazing trip, Emma said softly. Thank you, Alex. I'm glad you're happy, Alex replied, his voice tender. I want to make every moment with you special. They stopped walking and faced each other, the setting sun behind them. Alex cupped Emma's face in his hands, his gaze intense. I love you, Emma. More than anything. I love you too, Alex, Emma whispered, feeling her heart swell with emotion. They shared a passionate kiss, the world around them fading away. For a moment, everything was perfect. But the idyllic moment was shattered when Alex suddenly tensed, his eyes narrowing as he looked over Emma's shoulder. Before she could ask what was wrong, he pushed her behind him, his body rigid with alertness. Stay here, he said, his voice low and urgent. Emma's heart pounded as she watched Alex stride towards a figure emerging from the shadows. The man was tall and burly, his expression cold and menacing. Emma realized with a jolt of fear that he was holding a gun. Alex! Emma cried out, panic rising in her chest. Alex turned back to her, his eyes fierce. Stay down. I'll handle this. The two men faced each other, the tension palpable in the air. Emma watched in horror as Alex and the stranger exchanged heated words, their voices too low for her to hear. Then, in a swift and brutal move, Alex lunged at the man, disarming him and sending the gun flying into the sand. A fierce struggle ensued, the men grappling with each other in a flurry of punches and kicks. Emma felt paralyzed with fear, unable to look away as the violence unfolded. Alex fought with a precision and intensity that left no doubt about his capability. In a matter of minutes, he had the stranger pinned to the ground, his face a mask of rage. Who sent you? Alex demanded, his voice deadly calm. The man spat blood, refusing to answer. Alex's grip tightened, and Emma saw a flash of desperation in the stranger's eyes. "You don't know who you're dealing with," the man snarled. Alex's expression darkened. "I know exactly who I'm dealing with. Now, talk." The man hesitated, then muttered something too low for Emma to hear. Alex's face remained impassive as he listened, but Emma could see the tension in his jaw. Finally, Alex knocked the man out cold and stood up, breathing heavily. Emma ran to him, her eyes wide with fear and confusion. "Alex, what just happened? Who was that?" Alex turned to her, his expression softening. "It's over now, Emma. You're safe." "But who was he?" Emma insisted, her voice trembling. "Why was he trying to kill you?" Alex sighed, pulling her into a tight embrace. "It's complicated. Some people don't want me around, people I've crossed in my work. But I promise you, I'll do whatever it takes to protect you." Emma clung to him, her mind reeling. The violence she had just witnessed shattered the illusion of their perfect paradise, bringing the harsh reality of Alex's world crashing down around her. She wanted to believe in his reassurances, but the fear and uncertainty gnawed at her. "I love you, Alex," she whispered, her voice breaking. "But I need to understand what's going on. I need to know the truth." Alex looked into her eyes, his expression filled with regret and determination. "I'll tell you everything, Emma. I promise. Just give me a little more time." Emma's mind raced with questions and doubts as they returned to the villa. She wanted to trust Alex, to believe in their love, but the shadows of his past loomed ever larger. She knew the journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, and she could only hope their love would be strong enough to overcome them. A shocking discovery. The tension from the beach confrontation lingered in the air as Emma and Alex returned from their island getaway. Emma tried to mask her growing unease, but her mind raced with questions and fears. She couldn't forget the image of Alex fighting the hitman, the brutal efficiency of his movements, or the chilling calm in his voice. Back home, Alex was more attentive than ever, doing everything he could to reassure Emma and make her feel safe. He planned romantic dinners, surprised her with thoughtful gifts, and spent every moment with her. Despite his efforts, the seeds of doubt had taken root in Emma's mind, and she knew she needed to find the truth. One evening, while Alex was out running errands, Emma decided to take matters into her own hands. She couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something important, and she needed to know what it was. She began to search his apartment, feeling guilty but driven by a desperate need for answers. Her heart pounded in her chest as she sifted through drawers and cabinets. She found nothing unusual at first, just the typical items one would expect to find in a bachelor's apartment. But then, tucked away in the back of a closet, she discovered a small locked box. Her hands trembled as she fumbled with the lock, finally prying it open. Emma found a stack of documents, photographs, and several USB drives inside. Her breath caught in her throat as she realized the significance of what she was holding. She spread the documents out on the floor, eyes scanning the contents. Financial records, coded messages, and detailed plans for various illegal activities existed. But what truly shocked Emma were the photographs. They showed Alex in the company of known criminals, his face often masked by a cold, calculating expression she barely recognized. One photo showed him shaking hands with Victor, the mob leader, both men smiling as if sealing a deal. Emma's world crumbled around her. The man she loved, who had promised to protect her, was deeply involved in a dangerous criminal network. She felt a wave of nausea wash over her as the realization hit her with full force. Alex had lied to her, deceived her, and put her in unimaginable danger. Tears streamed down her face as she sat on the floor, surrounded by the damning evidence. She didn't know what to do or where to turn. Her heart ached with betrayal and confusion, and she felt like she was drowning in a sea of conflicting emotions. Just then, she heard the sound of the front door opening. Panic surged through her, and she quickly gathered the documents, shoved them back into the box, and hid them in the closet. She wiped her tears and tried to compose herself, but her hands still shook with the weight of what she had discovered. "Emma." Alex's voice called from the hallway. "I'm back. Are you here?" She stood up, taking a deep breath to steady herself. "In here," she replied, her voice strained. Alex entered the room, a concerned look on his face. "Hey, are you okay? You look upset." Emma forced a smile, her heart racing. "I'm fine. Just a little tired, that's all." Alex's eyes narrowed slightly, but he didn't press her. "Why don't we sit down and relax? I brought your favorite wine." As they settled on the couch, Emma's mind raced with questions. How could she confront Alex with what she had found? Could she even trust him anymore? She needed time to think and figure out her next move. They spent the evening talking and sipping wine, but Emma's thoughts were elsewhere. She felt like a stranger in her own life, the foundation of her trust shattered by the revelation of Alex's true nature. She needed to protect herself but didn't know how to do it without tipping him off. As they said goodnight, Alex pulled her into a gentle embrace. "I love you, Emma," he whispered, his voice filled with warmth. "Whatever happens, remember that." Emma's heart twisted with pain. "I love you too, Alex," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. She lay awake that night, her mind racing with plans and fears. She knew she couldn't stay with Alex after what she had discovered. But leaving him meant entering a world of uncertainty and danger. She needed help, someone she could trust to guide her through this nightmare. The following day, Emma made a decision. She would go to the police, to the detective who had visited the flower shop. She didn't know if she could trust him, but it was her only hope. She gathered the documents she had found, hid them in her bag, and set off for the police precinct. Walking through the city streets, her heart pounded with fear and determination. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew she had to take control of her destiny. She had to protect herself and find a way out of the web of lies that had entangled her. When she arrived at the precinct, she took a deep breath and stepped inside, hoping that she was making the right choice. She approached the front desk, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. "I need to speak with Detective Anderson," she said. "It's urgent." The officer at the desk nodded, picking up the phone. "Wait here. I'll get him for you." As Emma waited, she felt a sense of resolve settle over her. She was stepping into the unknown, but she was no longer alone. She had the evidence, and she had the determination to seek justice. Whatever happened next, she would face it with courage and strength. Chapter 5: An Unlikely Alliance. Seeking help. Emma sat in the sterile, dimly lit waiting area of the police precinct, her heart pounding. She clutched her bag tightly, the weight of the documents inside feeling like a tangible burden. Every moment that passed seemed to stretch into eternity, her anxiety mounting with each tick of the clock on the wall. Finally, the door to the back office opened, and Detective Mark Anderson stepped out. He was tall and imposing, with a stern expression that softened slightly when he saw Emma. He approached her with a nod, gesturing for her to follow him. "Miss, you wanted to speak with me?" Mark asked, his voice low and steady. Emma took a deep breath, forcing herself to stay calm. "Yes, Detective. I need to talk to you about Alex. I have something important to show you." Mark's eyes narrowed slightly, and he led her into a small, private office. He closed the door behind them and motioned for her to sit. Emma took a seat, her hands trembling as she opened her bag and pulled out the box of documents. "I found these in Alex's apartment," she said, her voice shaking. "I think he's involved in something dangerous. I didn't know where else to go." Mark took the box from her, his expression serious as he examined the contents. He flipped through the documents, his brow furrowing as he read. Emma watched him anxiously, her heart pounding in her chest. "This is significant," Mark said finally, looking at Emma. "You've done the right thing by bringing this to me. These documents clearly link Alex and the mob's operations." Emma felt a surge of relief mixed with fear. "What happens now? What can we do?" Mark set the box down and leaned forward, his gaze intense. "Emma, I need you to understand that this situation is dangerous. Alex is deeply involved in criminal activities, and the people he works with are ruthless. But with this evidence, we have a chance to bring them down. I'm going to need your help." Emma nodded, her resolve strengthening. "I'll do whatever it takes. I want to stop this and keep people safe." Mark nodded, appreciating her bravery. "First, we need to make sure you're protected. Alex and his associates can't know that you've come to us. We'll set up a safe house for you, and you'll need to stay there while we build our case." Emma's heart sank at the thought of leaving her life behind, but she knew it was necessary. "Okay. I understand." Mark stood and extended his hand. "Thank you, Emma. Your cooperation is going to make a big difference. Let's get you to this safe house, and we'll take it from there." Emma shook his hand, feeling a mix of fear and determination. She had taken the first step toward unraveling the lies and danger surrounding her. Now, she had to trust the detective and the justice system to help her find a way out. Mark led her to an unmarked car parked outside as they left the precinct. He opened the door for her, and she slid into the passenger seat, her mind racing with the enormity of what she was doing. Mark got behind the wheel and started the car, navigating the city streets with practiced ease. "Emma, I need you to tell me everything you know about Alex," Mark said as they drove. "Any details, no matter how small, could be important." Emma took a deep breath and began to recount her relationship with Alex, from their first meeting at the flower shop to the strange behavior and inconsistencies that had raised her suspicions. She described the documents she had found and the confrontation with the hitman on the beach. Mark listened intently, occasionally asking questions to clarify details. By the time Emma finished, they had arrived at a quiet suburban neighborhood. Mark pulled into the driveway of a modest house, its unassuming appearance hiding the fact that it was a safe house used by the police to protect witnesses. "We're here," Mark said, cutting the engine. "This will be your home for the time being. There are officers stationed nearby, and you'll be safe here." Emma nodded, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension. "Thank you, Detective. I appreciate everything you're doing." Mark gave her a reassuring smile. "We're going to take care of you. And we're going to bring Alex and his associates to justice. Stay strong." Emma felt a renewed sense of purpose as she stepped out of the car and followed Mark into the house. She was no longer alone in her fight for the truth. With the detective's help, she would find a way to stop Alex and protect those she cared about. Mark introduced Emma to the officers who were looking after her inside the safe house. They showed her around, explained the security measures in place, and ensured she felt comfortable. Despite the fear and uncertainty, Emma felt a glimmer of hope. She was taking control of her destiny, and with the help of the police, she would find a way to navigate the dangerous path ahead. That night, as she lay in the unfamiliar bed, Emma couldn't help but think about Alex. She still loved him, despite everything, and the thought of betraying him tore at her heart. But she knew that she had made the right choice. She had to believe that love and justice would ultimately prevail, even if it meant facing the hardest truths and making the most challenging decisions of her life. Forming a plan. The following morning, Emma woke up in the safe house, the weight of the previous day's events heavy on her mind. She dressed and joined Detective Mark Anderson in the small kitchen, where he made coffee. The smell of the fresh brew was comforting, but it did little to ease her anxiety. "Good morning," Mark said, offering her a cup. "How did you sleep?" "Not very well," Emma admitted, taking the coffee gratefully. "There's just so much to process." Mark nodded, understanding. "I know this is difficult, but you're doing the right thing. We need to focus on our next steps. We have to build a stronger case against Alex and the mob." Emma took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "What do we need to do?" "First, we need to gather more concrete evidence," Mark explained. "The documents you found are a good start, but we must catch Alex in the act. We need to anticipate his next move and act when the time is right." Emma nodded, feeling a sense of determination. "I can help with that. I know his routines, his habits. Maybe I can help you predict what he'll do next." Mark looked at her thoughtfully. "That could be very useful. Tell me everything you know about his schedule and any upcoming plans he's mentioned." Emma spent the next hour detailing Alex's routines, the places he frequented, and any conversations about future plans. She mentioned his business meetings, the people he often spoke to on the phone, and his tendency to leave abruptly when certain calls came in. As she spoke, Mark took notes, his expression growing more focused. "This is good, Emma. With this information, we can start monitoring his activities more closely. We need to catch him in the act, preferably with other members of the mob, to make the charges stick." "But how do we do that without him finding out?" Emma asked, her worry evident. "We'll need to be careful," Mark said. "We'll set up surveillance and closely monitor his movements. We'll also need to keep you out of sight. It could put you in even more danger if he suspects anything." Emma nodded, feeling the gravity of the situation. "I understand. I'll do whatever it takes." Mark gave her a reassuring smile. "We'll keep you safe, Emma. And we'll bring Alex to justice." Over the next few days, Emma and Mark worked closely together, forming a reluctant but determined partnership. They set up surveillance on Alex, tracking his movements and communications. Emma provided insights and details that helped the detectives anticipate Alex's actions, allowing them to gather more evidence. One evening, as they reviewed the latest surveillance footage, Emma noticed something that caught her attention. "Wait, go back a bit," she said, pointing at the screen. Mark rewound the footage, focusing on the moment Emma indicated. "What do you see?" "That man Alex is talking to," Emma said, her eyes narrowing. "I've seen him before. He's one of the guys who showed up at the flower shop a few times. I think he's part of the mob." Mark studied the footage, recognizing the man from their files. "You're right. That's Tony, one of Victor's lieutenants. This could be the break we've been waiting for." They watched as Alex and Tony spoke in hushed tones, their body language indicating the seriousness of their conversation. Emma's heart ached as she saw the man she loved engaging in criminal activities, but she steeled herself, knowing that she had to see this through. Mark turned to her, his expression resolute. "We need to find out what they're planning. If we can catch them in the act, we'll have enough evidence to take them down." Emma nodded, her determination matching his. "Let's do it." Emma stayed in the safe house the next day while Mark and his team set up a more extensive surveillance operation. They placed wiretaps and hidden cameras in the locations Alex frequented, hoping to capture incriminating evidence. As the hours passed, Emma's anxiety grew. She hated being confined to the safe house and feeling helpless while the detectives worked. But she knew it was for her safety and trusted Mark to keep her informed. Finally, late in the evening, Mark returned with an update. "We've got something," he said, his eyes alight with urgency. "Alex and Tony are planning a major transaction tomorrow night. We're going to intercept them." Emma's heart raced. "What do you need me to do?" "Stay here and stay safe," Mark said firmly. "We have enough evidence to move forward. We're going to set up a sting operation and catch them in the act. Once we have them, we'll take down the entire operation." Emma nodded, feeling a mix of fear and hope. "Be careful." "We will," he assured her. "We'll bring them to justice. I promise." As Mark left to finalize the plans, Emma sat in the safe house, her mind racing. She knew the next 24 hours would be critical. She prayed that everything would go smoothly, that the detectives would succeed, and that she would finally be free from the nightmare that had taken over her. That night, she barely slept, her thoughts consumed by the upcoming operation. She clung to the hope that this would end Alex's deceit and begin a new chapter for her. A chapter where she could rebuild her life, free from the shadows of his criminal world. The next evening, Mark and his team geared up for the raid. The tension in the air was palpable as they double-checked their equipment and reviewed the plan. Emma watched from a distance, her heart pounding with anxiety and anticipation. "All right, team," Mark said, his voice steady and commanding. "We move in fast and catch them off guard. No mistakes." They piled into their vehicles, driving swiftly but silently towards the warehouse on the city's outskirts. As they approached, Mark signaled for everyone to take their positions. The officers fanned out, surrounding the building with precision. With a nod from Mark, they moved in. The front door burst open and officers swarmed inside, weapons drawn. Shouts echoed through the warehouse as mob members scrambled in surprise. "Police! Hands where we can see them." Mark's voice cut through the chaos. The mobsters hesitated but soon realized they were outnumbered. One by one, they dropped their weapons and raised their hands. Officers moved swiftly, securing them with handcuffs. Victor, the mob leader, stood at the center of the room, his face a mask of rage and defiance. He made a move to escape but found himself quickly surrounded by officers. "It's over, Victor," Mark said firmly. "You're under arrest." Victor glared at him but knew resistance was futile. He allowed himself to be cuffed, his eyes still burning with anger. As the officers secured the remaining mob members, Mark's gaze swept across the room. Amidst the confusion, he realized one person was missing, Alex. "Where's Alex?" Mark shouted to his team. A young officer ran up to him, breathless. "Sir, we lost him." He slipped through one of the back exits. Mark's jaw tightened in frustration. "Damn it." Spread out and searched the area. He couldn't have gone far. The team scattered, searching every corner of the warehouse and its surroundings. Mark knew Alex was a key piece of this operation, they couldn't afford to let him escape. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours as they combed through every possible hiding spot. But Alex had vanished into the night, leaving no trace behind. Finally, Mark called off the search with a heavy heart. "We got most of them," he said to his team. "But we need to find Alex before he can warn anyone else or regroup." The officers nodded in grim determination as they began to transport their captives back to headquarters. Alex's heart pounded as he raced through the dark city streets, his footsteps echoing off the buildings. The wail of police sirens grew closer, spurring him to push harder. He darted down an alley, hoping to lose his pursuers in the maze of back streets. "Stop! Police!" a voice shouted from behind. Alex ignored the command, ducking around a corner and sprinting down another narrow passageway. The sound of heavy footsteps followed close behind. As he emerged onto a wider street, Alex spotted a parked car. Without hesitation, he smashed the window with his elbow, unlocked the door, and slid into the driver's seat. His fingers worked quickly, hot-wiring the vehicle. The engine roared to life just as two police officers rounded the corner, guns drawn. "Freeze!" one of them yelled. Alex floored the accelerator, tires screeching as he sped away. Bullets pinged off the car's body, shattering the back window. He swerved wildly, trying to shake off his pursuers. More police cars joined the chase, their flashing lights illuminating the night. Alex's stolen vehicle careened through intersections, narrowly missing other cars. Suddenly, he found himself cornered as police vehicles blocked both ends of the street. Alex slammed on the brakes, the car skidding to a stop. He knew he had only seconds to act. Alex leapt from the car, gun in hand. He fired rapidly at the approaching officers, forcing them to take cover behind their vehicles. The air filled with the deafening sound of gunfire as both sides exchanged shots. Two officers fell, struck by Alex's bullets. Their colleagues returned fire with increased intensity, bullets whizzing past Alex's head. Alex dashed through the narrow alleys, his breath ragged and eyes wide with desperation. The police sirens blared in the distance, a relentless reminder of the danger closing in. His heart pounded like a drum, each beat urging him to push harder, move faster. He rounded a corner and slipped into the shadows of an abandoned building. The dim light from a distant street lamp cast eerie patterns on the crumbling walls. He paused for a moment, straining to hear any sign of pursuit. The night was thick with tension, but all he heard was the distant hum of the city. Alex knew he had to keep moving. He darted through a side door, finding himself in a dark corridor littered with debris. The air was musty and stale, but it provided cover. He navigated through the building's labyrinthine passages, every step measured and cautious. Emerging on the other side, Alex spotted an old fire escape ladder leading up to the roof. He climbed swiftly, his muscles burning with effort. Reaching the top, he scanned the skyline for an escape route. The city stretched out below him, a maze of rooftops and alleyways. He leaped from one building to the next, each landing precise despite his exhaustion. His path was erratic, designed to throw off anyone who might be following. He could still hear faint sirens, but they were growing more distant with each passing second. Finally, Alex dropped down into another alleyway and slipped into a narrow passage between two buildings. He crouched behind a dumpster, catching his breath and listening intently. The sirens faded into the background noise of the city. For now, he had lost them. Alex stayed hidden for several minutes, making sure the coast was clear before he ventured out again. He moved with purpose but remained vigilant, aware that any misstep could lead to capture. Navigating through less conspicuous routes, he found himself in an unfamiliar neighborhood. It was quieter here, with fewer prying eyes. He ducked into a small convenience store and grabbed a hoodie from a rack near the entrance. Pulling it over his head to conceal his face further, he paid quickly and left without drawing attention. As he walked away from the store, blending into the sparse crowd on the street, Alex felt a small measure of relief wash over him. The immediate threat had passed. For now. But he knew better than to let his guard down entirely. There would be time to figure out his next move, time to think about what came next, once he was truly safe. For now, survival was enough. Emma sat restlessly in the safe house, her fingers fidgeting nervously as the weight of her decision bore down on her conscience. Shadows from the dimly lit room flickered across her face, mirroring the turmoil within her. The television in the corner buzzed incessantly with news updates about the raid, its bright screen casting an eerie glow and flashing images of handcuffed mobsters being led away by stern-faced officers. The scenes of chaos that had unfolded on the streets replayed in an endless loop, a stark reminder of the world she was ensnared in. However, one unsettling headline kept reappearing, sending chills down her spine and making her heart race. Mobster Alex Kingston escapes raid, manhunt underway. Her heart pounded furiously against her ribcage as she watched the screen, the full gravity of the situation sinking in. The danger, she realized with growing dread, was far from over. Each beat echoed in her ears, a relentless reminder of the peril she faced. The sound of footsteps approaching broke her from her anxious reverie, causing her to tense. Detective Mark Anderson entered the room, his weathered face etched with deep lines of concern, his eyes scanning the dimly lit space before settling on her. He cleared his throat, the weight of unspoken words hanging heavily in the air between them. "Emma," he began, his voice low and urgent, each word weighted with the gravity of the situation, "we need to be extra cautious now. Alex is on the run, and he's more dangerous than ever. We've increased security measures around the clock, but you must stay put here until he's caught. No exceptions." His eyes bored into hers, a mixture of determination and fear evident in their depths. "We've got patrols monitoring the perimeter and surveillance teams on high alert. You can't take any risks, not with him out there." Emma nodded silently, her anxiety palpable in the tense atmosphere of the room. She knew all too well the stakes involved, and she could almost feel the heat of Alex's wrath if he were to find her. The thought sent a shiver through her body, a cold wave of dread that threatened to paralyze her. Despite the fear threatening to overwhelm her, she took a deep breath and steeled herself, squaring her shoulders. She had come too far to back down now, and she was determined to see this through to the bitter end, whatever the cost might be. Memories of past sacrifices flashed through her mind, fueling her resolve. She tightened her grip on the edge of the table, finding strength in the solidity beneath her fingertips. Her eyes met Detective Anderson's, and she gave a curt, resolute nod. Alex moved through the city's underbelly, each step resonating with the pulse of his fury. The narrow alleyways twisted and turned like a labyrinth, the dim streetlights casting long shadows that seemed to reach out and grab at him. His breath came in short, controlled bursts, each exhale a testament to his burning rage. He didn't have a clear plan, only a primal drive pushing him forward. Emma's betrayal felt like a knife twisting in his gut. He needed answers, and he needed them now. The thought of her face, the look of fear she must have had as she handed over his secrets to the cops, made his blood boil. An officer stepped into his path, flashlights slicing through the darkness. "Stop right there." Alex didn't hesitate. He lunged forward, using the element of surprise to his advantage. His fist connected with the officer's jaw, sending him sprawling to the ground. The flashlight clattered away, its beam spinning wildly before settling on the officer's unconscious form. The sound of distant sirens grew louder, but Alex pressed on. He couldn't afford to get caught, not now, not when he was so close to finding Emma. His mind raced through memories of their time together, the laughs they shared, the secrets he let slip when he was too comfortable. Had it all been a lie? Another officer rounded the corner, gun drawn. "Freeze!" A quick sidestep and Alex was on him, disarming him with a swift motion and delivering a blow that sent the officer crumpling to the pavement. The gun skittered away into the shadows as Alex continued his relentless march. He reached into his pocket, pulling out a crumpled piece of paper, an address he had forced out of one of Emma's co-workers during a particularly intense interrogation earlier that evening. If she wasn't there, someone would be who could lead him to her. As he approached the address, a rundown apartment building, the adrenaline coursing through his veins reached a fever pitch. He paused for a moment in the shadows across the street, eyes scanning for any sign of movement. Inside one of those apartments was Emma. He could feel it in his bones. And when he found her, he'd get his answers. Late at night, the safe house is eerily quiet, the silence broken only by the soft creaking of floorboards beneath Emma's feet as she paces restlessly in the small living room. Sleep eludes her, her mind a whirlwind of conflicting emotions as she grapples with the reality of the man she once loved, now a fugitive and a killer. The weight of her decisions presses down on her, making each breath feel heavy and labored. The sudden creak of the door cuts through the stillness like a knife, causing Emma to freeze mid-step, her heart leaping into her throat. Detective Mark Anderson steps in, his shoulders slumped with exhaustion, dark circles shadowing his eyes. The lines on his face seem deeper than ever, etched by the stress of the ongoing manhunt. "Emma, we need to talk," he says, his voice strained and barely above a whisper. The gravity in his tone sends a chill down Emma's spine, her mind racing with possibilities of what news he might bring. Before Mark can continue, the relative calm is shattered by the explosive sound of breaking glass. Shards scatter across the floor as Alex bursts into the room with the force of a hurricane, his gun glinting menacingly in the dim light. His eyes, once filled with warmth and love, now burn with a wild, uncontrolled anger that makes Emma's blood run cold. In a heartbeat, Alex closes the distance between them, grabbing Mark with surprising strength. The detective grunts in pain as Alex presses the cold barrel of the gun against his temple, his finger twitching dangerously close to the trigger. "Emma! How could you betray me?" Alex's voice cracks, a volatile mix of rage and hurt that pierces Emma to her core. "I trusted you. I gave you everything." Emma's breath catches in her throat, her lungs burning as she forces herself to stay calm. She meets Alex's gaze, trying to find a glimmer of the man she once knew in those wild eyes. "Alex, please, let Mark go," she pleads, her voice trembling despite her best efforts to keep it steady. "This isn't the way. We can talk about this, find another solution. You think you can lecture me after what you've done?" Alex snarls, his grip on Mark tightening. "You ruined everything. Our future, our dreams, all gone because of you." Mark struggles in Alex's grip, his face contorted with the effort to remain composed. "Alex, listen to her," he manages to say, his voice strained but level. "It's over. There's no way out of this. Just let her go, and we can work something out." Alex's grip on the gun tightens, his finger hovering precariously over the trigger. Emma's mind races, adrenaline coursing through her veins as she realizes the gravity of the situation. She knows she has to act quickly, or lives will be lost. Her eyes dart to the kitchen, where she remembers hiding a knife in one of the drawers, a precaution she had hoped never to need. "Please, Alex," she says, her voice softening as she takes a cautious step towards the kitchen. "We can find another way. Remember all we've been through together. This doesn't have to end in more violence." For a fleeting moment, Alex's eyes flicker with doubt, a shadow of the man he once was passing across his face. His grip on the gun loosens ever so slightly, and Emma seizes the opportunity. In a burst of speed, she lunges for the drawer, her fingers closing around the handle of the knife. Time seems to slow as Emma whirls around, the blade glinting in the low light. With a surge of desperate strength, she plunges the knife into Alex's side, feeling the sickening give of flesh beneath the steel. Alex's eyes widen in shock and pain, a gasp escaping his lips. He stumbles backward, releasing Mark, who swiftly moves to disarm him. The gun clatters to the floor as Alex collapses, a dark pool of blood spreading beneath him on the hardwood. Emma's hands shake uncontrollably as she drops the knife, the metallic clang echoing in the sudden silence. Her breath comes in ragged gasps as the full weight of her actions crashes down upon her. "It's over, Alex," she whispers, her voice barely audible as tears stream down her face, leaving glistening trails on her cheeks. Alex looks up at her, his expression softening for a moment, the anger draining away to be replaced by a mix of pain and something that might be regret. "Emma." He gasps, his voice weak and fading. "I loved you. I really did." His eyes close, and he falls silent, his chest no longer rising and falling with breath. Mark steps forward, placing a reassuring hand on Emma's trembling shoulder. "You did what you had to, Emma," he says softly, his voice a mixture of sympathy and relief. "You saved us both. There was no other way." Emma nods numbly, though the weight of her actions bears heavily on her soul. The knife in her hand, the blood on the floor, these images will haunt her for years to come. She knows her life will never be the same, the innocence of her past forever shattered by this moment of violence. Yet, even as guilt and grief threaten to overwhelm her, a small part of her recognizes that she made the only choice she could. As the wail of approaching sirens cuts through the night, growing louder with each passing second, Emma allows herself a moment of relief. She takes a deep, shuddering breath, her eyes meeting Mark's. In his gaze, she finds understanding and support, a lifeline in the chaos of her emotions. The nightmare that has consumed their lives for so long is finally over, but Emma knows that the road ahead will be long and difficult. As the first flashes of red and blue lights begin to dance across the walls, she steels herself for what's to come, knowing that while one chapter has closed, another, equally challenging one is about to begin. Chapter 6, Aftermath. Dealing with loss. The days after Emma's final confrontation with Alex were filled with heavy silence. She felt a deep sense of loss and betrayal. The pain was palpable, but Emma knew she had to find a way to move forward. She spent her days at the safe house, slowly adjusting to the new reality. Detective Mark Anderson checked in on her regularly, providing updates on the case and ensuring she felt safe. His presence was a comfort, a reminder that she wasn't alone in this fight. One afternoon, Mark arrived with news. "Emma, we've secured the conviction of several key members of the mob. The evidence you provided was crucial in bringing them to justice." Emma felt a mix of relief and sorrow. "Thank you. I'm glad it's over, but it's hard to process everything. I still can't believe Alex was capable of all this." "I understand," Mark said gently. "It's a lot to take in. But you did the right thing, and because of your bravery, many lives have been saved." Emma nodded, appreciating his words. "I just wish things could have been different." "Me too," Mark said. "But now you have a chance to rebuild your life, to find peace and happiness. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to reach out." "Thank you." After Mark left, Emma decided to take a walk. The safe house was located in a quiet suburban neighborhood, far removed from the chaos and danger that had consumed her life. Walking along the tree-lined streets, she reflected on the events that had brought her here. She thought about Alex, the man she had loved and the man she had discovered. The memories of their time together were bittersweet, filled with moments of joy and love now overshadowed by the harsh reality of his actions. Emma knew she had to let go, but the process was painful and slow. As she walked, she felt a sense of determination growing within her. She had faced unimaginable challenges and had emerged stronger. Now, she had to focus on healing, on finding a way to move forward and create a new life for herself. Back at the safe house, Emma spent her evenings journaling, pouring her thoughts and emotions onto the pages. It was a therapeutic process, helping her to process her feelings and come to terms with what had happened.